You're deep into the world of Scrum. You've probably, mastered the lingo, sprints, daily Scrums, the product owner role. But what if? What if we told you there's this vital, often misunderstood part of the Scrum framework that isn't even officially called an event? A non-event that's actually so potent it could, like, totally revolutionize your team's ability to truly focus and deliver. Today, we're taking a deep dive into product backlog refinement. We'll explore why this ongoing activity is absolutely critical for effective Scrum, how it prevents those painful, chaotic sprint planning sessions. You know, the ones that make you want to pull your hair out. And why getting this right is really the cornerstone of Agile success. Our mission today is to cut through the jargon, get past the superficial stuff and get to the heart of what product backlog refinement really is, why it matters so much, and how embracing it can empower your team to achieve, well, crystal clarity and deliver real value consistently. Ready to unpack this?
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here isn't just what product backlog refinement is, but how something so fundamental can be so easily overlooked or misapplied or maybe even intentionally sidestepped sometimes. It often gets a bad rap,
Yeah.
or it's confused with that outdated terminology like grooming. We'll get into that. But truly understanding its purpose reveals this deep, almost indispensable alignment with the core empirical principles of Scrum.
Transparency, inspection, adaptation.
Exactly, those pillars. And many teams, perhaps yours included, really struggle with sprint planning because it's the first time they're seeing detail items, or sometimes the first time they're seeing them at all.
Oh, yeah. That's painful.
It really is. And this deep dive, I think, will illuminate why that chaos isn't a problem with sprint planning itself. It's a symptom, a big glaring red flag that refinement isn't happening effectively. And how a consistent, proactive approach to refinement is, well, it's the antidote you've probably been searching for.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We've definitely touched on Scrum before, but for our deep dive today, let's quickly revisit its fundamental purpose. Not just what it is, but why it even exists. Remember, it's that lightweight framework, right? Designed to help people, teams, organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems.
Precisely. It's adaptive.
And it's built on empiricism and lean thinking, using that iterative, incremental approach, optimizing predictability, controlling risk. It's about navigating uncertainty, not pretending it doesn't exist.
Exactly. And for our discussion today, it's so critical to understand how product backlog refinement isn't just part of Scrum. It's really the engine that powers Scrum's empirical pillars.
Okay.
We're talking about transparency, inspection, and adaptation. These pillars, they're foundational. But what's often missed is how refinement makes them tangible, how it breathes life into them. Take transparency, for example. It isn't just about, making work visible on a board somewhere.
Wait, not just ticket.
No. In refinement, it's about making the emergent process and the upcoming work so clear and visible that everyone involved, from the developers actually building it to the stakeholders who will use it, has a truly shared understanding. Without that clarity, well, decisions get made on faulty assumptions. And the Scrum Guide warns that diminishes value and increases risk. Refinement tackles that directly.
And inspection, how does refinement enable that? I mean, how does looking at backlog items help with inspection?
Well, inspection is about frequently and diligently checking progress towards your goals, right, to detect any undesirable variances or problems early on. Product backlog refinement is that continuous inspection of the upcoming work. It's the team regularly examining what's next, questioning what they thought they knew, seeing what new information has popped up.
Okay, so checking assumptions.
Checking assumptions, yeah. Are assumptions still valid? Are there new dependencies we didn't foresee? This constant checking allows problems to be spotted long before they become like critical impediments that derail a whole sprint. It's kind of like having an early warning system for your product development.
Which naturally leads to adaptation, right? If you find something during inspection.
Exactly. If anything seems off during that inspection, or maybe new information emerges, perhaps a stakeholder clarifies a requirement in a different way, or the developers identify a significant technical challenge they hadn't seen before. Refinement dictates that the process or the product, specifically the product backlog, must be adjusted as soon as possible.
Okay.
This is at the core of agility, embracing change as soon as new learning occurs. These pillars are so deeply interconnected. You can't truly inspect without transparency, and, well, inspection without adaptation is just kind of pointless, right?
Yeah, just admiring the problem.
Exactly. Refinement forces this virtuous cycle. Inspect, adapt, make things transparent, repeat.
And let's not forget the Scrum values. Those are kind of the bedrock for all of this, aren't they? Focus, openness, respect, commitment, and courage force. These values are meant to build trust within the team, which you could argue is like the secret sixth value. Without that underlying trust, none of the empirical pillars really come to life properly. The Scrum team commits to achieving goals, supporting each other. They focus primarily on the work of the sprint. Openness means the team and stakeholders are transparent about the work and challenges. Respect ensures team members feel capable, independent. Commitment is to achieving goals, and courage is about doing the right thing even when it's hard, tackling those tough problems.
That emphasis on trust is absolutely critical. And while trust isn't explicitly listed as one of the 5 Scrum values, you're right. The Scrum Guide does state that when the 5 values are embodied, the empirical Scrum pillars come to life building trust. It really is the underlying glue that allows for true collaboration and, frankly, the effective implementation of Scrum's principles. Without it, refinement can feel less like a collaborative effort and more like a painful interrogation.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's about having the courage to challenge assumptions, maybe push back sometimes, and the openness to admit when something isn't clear, trusting your teammates to support you in figuring it out.
So given all this foundational context, empiricism, values, trust, what does it mean for our hidden gem? We're talking about product backlog refinement. Our source material calls it the greatest non-event event in Scrum, which is a great phrase.
It is.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It's not a formal time-boxed event listed in the 2020 Scrum Guide, not like sprint planning or the daily Scrum.
That's a crucial distinction, and one that often trips teams up, I find. In previous versions, like the 2017 Scrum Guide, there was even that recommendation, remember, spend up to 10% of the sprint on refinement.
Right. I remember that.
That specific time box recommendation was removed in the 2020 guide. Now, this wasn't done to diminish its importance, actually, quite the opposite. It was done to emphasize that it's an ongoing activity throughout the sprint. It should be adaptable to the team's needs, rather than some rigid time-boxed meeting you just tick off a list.
So more fluid.
Exactly. It's meant to happen as needed and continuously, rather than just in a single isolated session, maybe right before planning. This flexibility lets teams integrate refinement into their daily work in a way that best suits their context, their flow, ensuring the backlog is always sort of simmering, ready for the next sprint. It allows for just-in-time preparation rather than big batch processing, which is usually wasteful.
Okay, think about that. If it's not a formal event, does that mean you can just skip it? I mean, technically?
Technically, maybe, but our source puts it beautifully. Yep, you can skip it. Good luck with that.
Right. So clearly it's vital.
Absolutely vital.
And it's also important to recognize, as you said, the Scrum Guide itself is purposely incomplete. It only defines the framework's required parts. This incompleteness isn't a flaw, right? It means Scrum is built upon by the collective intelligence, the experience of the people using it.
Exactly. It's a framework, not a methodology.
So while refinement isn't a mandatory event on the calendar, its necessity becomes incredibly obvious through practice, observation, and, well, feeling the pain when you don't do it.
Oh yes, the pain is real.
It's one of those foundational activities that, if it's absent, it just unravels the entire fabric of Scrum's effectiveness. It makes it incredibly difficult for the team to truly focus and deliver value. It's like trying to build a house without ever laying a proper foundation, just sort of hoping it holds together.
That's a great analogy. You might get the walls up, but it's not going to be stable. So product backlog refinement, fundamentally, is the act of breaking down and further defining product backlog items into smaller, more precise items. That's the core definition. It's this ongoing activity to add details, things like description, order, and size. Now, these attributes, they can vary depending on the specific work domain, the context of the team, but the core idea always remains ensuring clarity and understanding, making sure that when the time comes to select items for a sprint, there are no major ambiguities or nasty surprises.
Right. No, wait, what does this actually mean? Moments during sprint planning.
Exactly. It's not just about listing tasks. It's about making them truly ready to be acted upon. It enhances transparency and really eliminates a lot of that wasteful back and forth once development actually begins. Think of it like prepping your ingredients before you start cooking, right? You don't want to be frantically chopping vegetables while the sauce is boiling over.
Yeah, good one. It's about getting those items ready for prime time, making them clear, understandable, actionable. Imagine trying to build, I don't know, a complex piece of software or even just a simple piece of furniture without a clear blueprint or without knowing what piece goes where or even if all the pieces are there in the box.
Yeah, recipe for disaster.
That's kind of what you're doing if you skip this vital preparation. The refinement process ensures that the entire Scrum team gains context. Context is key.
It really is.
Meaning everyone involved has a shared understanding of what needs to be done, why it's important, and maybe even some ideas about how it might be achieved. This collective understanding is just absolutely essential for effective collaboration and, crucially, for the team to commit confidently to a sprint goal. Without it, you're basically just guessing in the dark. Now, here's that bit of history you mentioned, which I think really reveals how important clarity is in Scrum, especially when it comes to the language we use. Product backlog grooming. If you've been around Scrum for a while, you've definitely heard this term. It was everywhere for years.
Oh, yeah. Ubiquitous.
But our source material is pretty blunt about it, puts a strong emphasis. PSA, please retire the use of grooming the product backlog, or product backlog grooming, for so many reasons. It's no longer referred to that in Scrum because...
because stop. Just
stop.
And this isn't just, being pedantic about words or playing semantics, please. The shift from grooming to refinement happened way back in 2013, and it was for very good reasons. It's actually a fascinating insight into how words shape our understanding and our behavior. Grooming carried connotations that were just not aligned with the collaborative, self-managing, respectful nature of Scrum.
How so? What kind of connotations?
Well, historically, grooming can imply just a superficial tidying up, or maybe a passive activity. In some contexts, it even has much darker, more problematic associations we definitely want to avoid. But even more innocuously in the Scrum context, it could imply a very top-down approach, where one person, usually the product owner, is grooming the backlog for the developers rather than the entire team collaboratively engaging with the backlog.
Ah, okay. So it subtly encouraged a less active role for the development team in understanding the work, making them more passive recipients.
Exactly. It could foster an environment where developers felt they were just there to receive instructions, to be told what to do, rather than actively shaping the understanding of the work, challenging it, improving it. Refinement, on the other hand, much better reflects the continuous, proactive, and truly collaborative process of adding detail, understanding, and clarity to product backlog items. It emphasizes an iterative cycle of learning and adaptation driven by the entire Scrum team, not just one role polishing things up.
Right.
Words really do matter here. Using the correct terminology helps align the mindset with the practice, fostering a more agile and empirical approach. It signals a proactive, continuous improvement mindset, rather than just a reactive, one-off cleanup before planning.
So if you're still grooming, it's probably time for some real change. It's not just about updating your vocabulary to be, correct. It's about shifting your team's fundamental approach. Yeah. When you use refinement, it reinforces the idea that this isn't just polishing. It's about deeply understanding, breaking down complexity, challenging assumptions, making collective decisions about what's truly needed and how best to approach it. It speaks to that ongoing dialogue. Yeah, the continuous learning, the adaptive nature of Scrum, which is exactly what we need to focus on to actually deliver stuff. Precisely. Okay, so let's talk about the why, the big why of regular refinement. Avoiding the, what did the source call it? Sprint planning hell. Yes, sprint planning hell. We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
You walk into sprint planning, maybe you're already tired, fueled by lukewarm coffee.
Always lukewarm.
And suddenly this new, vaguely defined epic just materializes out of thin air. Or maybe half the items you thought were ready for discussion are still just bullet points. No detail, no context, no clear path forward.
That is the classic sprint planning hell. It's when you're trying to figure out the why, the what, and the how, all in one excruciating go, under pressure, with totally insufficient information.
You feel the clock ticking.
The tension rising.
And you know deep down that whatever you manage to plan will likely be undone by lunchtime anyway.
Exactly. And if you're, as the source puts it, just getting started, refining the product backlog at this point, meaning in sprint planning, the source bluntly says, you are screwed.
Okay, direct.
Very direct. But it paints a vivid and sadly often accurate picture of the chaos that ensues. We're talking about situations where there's no context around the product backlog items.
Yeah.
The team spends half the planning session just trying to figure out what problem they're even supposed to be solving, let alone how to solve it.
Wasting valuable time.
Huge waste. Or the product owner is just winging it. Maybe they haven't done the prep work. They don't have a clear vision, can't articulate the value or the details, leaves the team feeling totally directionless.
Or the developers have never even seen the items before. This is a common one.
Very common. Leads to wild guesses on effort. zero confidence in their commitments, and a complete absence of that shared understanding you need for effective collaboration. Imagine trying to estimate a journey you've never even looked at on a map.
Right. And the worst one may be.
Maybe. A high PPO,
Mm.
the highest paid person's opinion, wanders into the room
Oh, boy.
and starts flinging around new ideas right there during the planning session itself. Instantly disrupts focus, completely undermines the product owner's accountability, forces the team to pivot reactively, often committing to things without any proper thought or analysis. It's like throwing a grenade into an already tense meeting.
Yeah, it's that lipstick on a pig scenario again, isn't it? Trying to look like you're doing Scrum without actually making the real, sometimes difficult changes to how you work. You're replacing those genuine collaborative conversations with just Jira tickets and no context. Or Trello cards or whatever tool.
Exactly. That's not real change. That's just putting agile labels on old dysfunctional habits. The source warns against this so heavily. It gives examples like anti-patterns, renaming old status meetings to daily scrums, but everyone still just gives a status report.
Right, seen that.
Or demonstrating work at the sprint review that isn't actually a usable, valuable increment. It's just showing busyness. This kind of superficial adherence misses the entire point of Scrum generating value through adaptive solutions. And that requires deep, ongoing conversations and shared understanding, not just ticking boxes in a tool or relabeling meetings.
And this lipstick on a pig approach, it inevitably leads to frustrating, inefficient sprint planning, sure, but the damage doesn't stop there, does it?
Not at all. Without prior refinement, the team spends valuable planning time just trying to understand the basics, like we said, instead of collaborating on how to best achieve the sprint goal. This kills transparency, makes it hard to inspect progress effectively later, and leaves almost no room for necessary adaptations when new information inevitably emerges during the sprint. It fundamentally undermines the empirical pillars Scrum is built on. It turns what should be a focused planning session into a chaotic, reactive discovery meeting, the exact opposite of what you want.
And you end up with a sprint backlog built on shaky foundations.
Leading to missed forecasts, tons of rework, and honestly a pretty demoralized team over time.
Okay, so here's the solution. The free gold nugget from our source material. Simple but profound. Finish product backlog refinement before you begin sprint planning.
Before, not during.
Before. This means proactive, ongoing work throughout the previous sprint, not just a frantic scramble right before the planning event starts. It's about continuous preparation, not just in-time panic.
This is absolutely paramount. And while the Scrum Guide does say you may do refinement during sprint planning's topic 2, which is what can be done this sprint, it should absolutely not be the first time the Scrum team encounters these items in detail.
That's a critical nuance.
It really is. It's often overlooked. Doing this consistently, finishing refinement before planning, yields significant tangible benefits. Let's list them out. First, effective sprint planning. Just straight up more effective. Planning actually gets done on time, with a clear and mutually agreed upon sprint goal.
Because the groundwork's done.
Exactly. The product backlog items are already refined, understood, ready for selection. This lets the team focus on why the sprint is valuable and how the chosen work will get done, rather than debating the fundamental meaning of a task for an hour. It transforms planning from this tense negotiation of vague ideas into a collaborative strategy session.
Nice. What else? Second, clarity and confidence. Big one. Acceptance criteria are defined. Critical dependencies are identified before the sprint even begins. This proactively addresses potential roadblocks. This increases understanding and confidence for the entire Scrum team. The developers especially gain immense confidence in their sprint forecasts because they have a crystal clear understanding of the work they are committing to.
Less guesswork.
Way less guesswork. This minimizes the likelihood of those late sprint surprises or last-minute scope changes because something was misunderstood, or that frustrating rework because key details were missed up front. They know what done truly looks like for each item.
Okay, that makes sense. And third,
Maybe surprisingly, reduced meetings, increased productivity. The source actually states that by dedicating time to refinement throughout the sprint, you will actually have less meetings and be able to get more done in less time.
how does that work? More refinement, fewer meetings seems counterintuitive. It does, but think about it. When items are well understood before the sprint starts, the team can dive straight into execution. They don't need constant interruptions for clarification. They don't need extra ad hoc meetings to re-explain requirements or debate interpretations.
Avoiding the clarification churn.
Exactly. This isn't just about saving formal meeting time. It's about reducing that costly context switching and enabling deep, uninterrupted work. That's where real productivity happens. This directly ties into that focus #deliver concept.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means you'll be way more successful when implementing Scrum in the real world. That's a direct quote. It's about setting yourself up for success proactively rather than constantly trying to fix things on the fly reactively. It transforms sprint planning from that daunting, chaotic session into a focused, collaborative discussion about how to deliver value against a clear sprint goal. It means less time arguing about what a task means and more time actually building something awesome. It's about being proactive, always one step ahead.
And it also does something else really important. It exposes many other dysfunctional behaviors when implementing Scrum, which, as the source notes, really is the secret purpose of Scrum.
Okay, unpack that. The secret purpose of Scrum is to expose dysfunction.
In a way, yes. This is one of the most powerful and often overlooked insights about Scrum. The framework, in its entirety, is designed to make challenges and impediments visible so they can be addressed. For instance, if a lack of consistent refinement constantly highlights a product owner who isn't available or engaged enough with the team,
Right.
or maybe it highlights a management culture where a high PPO consistently overrides the team's work and the agreed-upon product goal. Scrum isn't just flagging a backlog problem in those cases, it's highlighting a fundamental organizational or leadership impediment.
It's a diagnostic tool.
Exactly. It forces those uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary, conversations about power dynamics, resource allocation, decision-making authority, communication breakdowns, things that might otherwise stay hidden, masked by some superficial compliance with Agile. It acts as a mirror, showing the organization exactly where it needs real, fundamental change, rather than just cosmetic fixes or process tweaks. It pushes you to move from simply managing Scrum to truly leading it, trusting the team to self-organize and solve problems once they have the necessary context and support.
Okay, that's deep. So refinement isn't just about tasks, it's about system health.
Very much so.
All right, so who's involved in making this happen? Who's doing this refining magic? You said it's a team sport.
Absolutely a team sport. Product backlog refinement allows the entire Scrum team to gain that crucial context and get those higher-ordered items ready. It's not just the product owner dictating from on high, nor is it just the developers silently estimating things in a corner. It's a truly collective effort.
And that's essential for building the shared understanding.
And shared commitment. Critically. Without everyone at the table contributing their perspective, you risk creating knowledge silos, misunderstandings, and misalignments down the road. While the product owner is indeed accountable for managing the product backlog ordering items, ensuring transparency, the entire Scrum team is involved in the activity of refinement. It's a continuous, collaborative dialogue. This ensures that when the team commits to a sprint goal, everyone truly understands what they're committing to, why it matters to the business or user, and how they collectively plan to achieve it. This active participation from all Scrum team members, product owner, developers, and the Scrum Master in their enabling role is crucial for fostering a cohesive unit focused on a single objective, the product goal. It's like a collective brain dump and problem-solving session that never really ends throughout the sprint.
Okay, let's break down the accountabilities within refinement more specifically. First, the product owner. They're kind of at the helm of the product backlog, right? Acting as the bridge between the team and the stakeholders.
Exactly. The product owner is accountable for effective product backlog management. Full stop. This includes developing and explicitly communicating the product goal, that longer-term North Star, for the product that guides the sprints. They are responsible for creating and clearly communicating product backlog items, ordering them according to value, risk, dependencies, new learning, whatever makes sense for the product, and ensuring the product backlog is transparent, visible, and understood by everyone.
So their prep work is key.
Oh, absolutely. Their proactive preparation during refinement is critical. They should come prepared with insights from stakeholders, maybe market research, a deep understanding of customer needs, and the why behind each item. This ensures that when the team gathers for refinement discussions, or even for sprint planning, they're ready to discuss the most important items and how they align with that overarching product goal. Now, they can delegate some of the work of writing or detailing items, maybe to developers or a business analyst, but the ultimate accountability for a well-managed, value-driven backlog always remains with the product owner. They're constantly engaging in conversations, gathering information, making those tough prioritization calls.
Okay. Then you have the developers, the folks who are, well, doing the actual development work, building the increment. What's their unique and crucial role in refinement? It's not just sizing, is it?
Not just sizing, although that's a huge part of it. Developers are the ones committed to creating a usable increment each sprint, adhering to a shared definition of done. They're accountable for creating the sprint backlog, their plan for the sprint, instilling quality, adapting their plan daily toward the sprint goal, and holding each other accountable as professionals. During refinement, developers are absolutely critical. They are primarily responsible for sizing the product backlog items, figuring out the relative effort involved. And this isn't just slapping a number on it. It involves real thought, discussion, maybe using techniques like relative sizing with story points or t-shirt sizes.
But they do more than just size.
So yes, they work actively to break down and further define the items. They ask the incisive questions, the what-ifs questions. They challenge assumptions, especially technical ones. They work to gain a shared understanding of the technical implications. Their questions aren't just for clarification. They're often critical challenges that prevent overcommitment and uncover hidden complexities.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, imagine a developer asking, hang on, have we considered the API rate limits on this third-party integration? Because that could triple the effort if we don't account for it now.
Right. Good catch.
Or, this feature sounds great in theory, but implementing it this way requires rebuilding a core component we thought was stable. Have we factored in the time and risk for that refactoring, or are we just planning to bolt it on and hope for the best?
Yeah, those are crucial technical insights.
Exactly. This active engagement increases their confidence in what they are selecting for the sprint and dramatically improves their ability to forecast effectively. They need to understand the how and contribute actively to refining the what. Often they'll suggest alternative technical approaches that might deliver similar value more efficiently or with less risk. They might even propose doing spikes, those time-boxed investigations or explorations, to deliberately reduce uncertainty around a particularly complex or unknown item before it gets fully refined and pulled into a sprint.
Okay, makes sense. And what about the Scrum Master? Are they in there refining items too, writing descriptions, sizing things, or is their role different?
Their role is different, but equally vital. The Scrum Master doesn't directly refine items or make decisions about the backlog content itself. Their role is more of a servant leader, focused on enabling the Scrum team to be effective at refinement and everything else.
How do they enable that?
Well, they serve the product owner by helping find techniques for effective product goal definition and product backlog management. Maybe suggesting different prioritization methods or ways to visualize the backlog, or techniques for gathering better stakeholder feedback. They also help the entire Scrum team understand the need for clear and concise product backlog items, coaching them on how to have effective refinement conversations, making sure everyone participates, feels heard, and that the discussions stay focused and productive.
So facilitating the process.
Facilitating the process, yes. And facilitating stakeholder collaboration when needed, ensuring the right conversations happen between the team and external parties to build that essential context. And crucially, they focus on causing the removal of impediments that might hinder effective refinement.
Impediments like what?
It could be anything. Unengaged stakeholders who don't provide timely input, a lack of necessary tools or environments for the team to properly explore technical options, or even internal organizational pressure to skip refinement altogether because there's no time.
Right, the just code mentality?
Exactly. The Scrum Master's role is to ensure that the refinement process itself is healthy, productive, and actually happens effectively, rather than just being a box-checking exercise or something that gets squeezed out. They are true leaders who serve the team, removing barriers and fostering an environment where a high-performing, self-managing team can thrive.
Okay, so with all these accountabilities, clear as PO owns the backlog, developers size and question, Scrum Master enables what actually happens during these sessions, or maybe these ongoing activities. The source lists 3 core activities: adding description, order, and size to product backlog items. So it's not just a free-for-all brainstorming session, there's a definite output expected.
That's right. Those 3 attributes, description, order, size, are crucial for any product backlog item to be considered ready or refined enough to potentially pull into a sprint. A clear description ensures everyone understands the what. What problem are we solving here? What value are we aiming to create, and for whom? It goes beyond just a title. It needs to articulate the essence of the work. Often this happens through things like well-written user stories, clear acceptance criteria, maybe links to mock-ups or designs. It defines when an item has enough information to actually begin development. This is where the product owner's vision really needs to shine, but it gets sharpened and clarified through the lens of the team's questions and understanding.
Got it. The description is the what and why, then order.
Ordering ensures the team is consistently working on the highest value items first, always aligned with the product goal, that North Star we talked about. This continuous ordering allows for dynamic adaptation. Maybe new information comes to light, market conditions shift, a critical dependency is discovered, or an unexpected risk emerges.
So the backlog isn't set in stone.
Definitely not. It's a living, breathing artifact that constantly adapts. The product owner determines the order based on maximizing value, but the team's input on complexity, dependencies, and technical feasibility heavily influences that ordering in practice.
And finally, size.
And finally, sizing. This helps the developers understand the relative effort involved, which allows for better forecasting and more realistic sprint planning. As we discussed, developers are solely responsible for sizing because they're the ones who will actually do the work. And again, this isn't about precise estimations down to the hour that's usually futile and complex work. It's about understanding relative complexity and effort compared to other items. This enables more accurate sprint forecasts and helps the team manage risk by not biting off more than they can chew. It's really about establishing that shared understanding and making informed decisions based on observed information, true empiricism in action.
And crucially, this isn't a one-time thing, right? It's an ongoing activity throughout the sprint.
Yes, so important.
Meaning, it's not just one big, possibly dreaded meeting crammed in right before sprint planning. It's continuous conversation and collaboration that happens as needed throughout the sprint. It might be short, focused discussions over coffee between a developer and the PO. It might be a couple of slightly longer, dedicated sessions spread throughout the week involving more of the team. It could even be collaborative documentation efforts in a shared tool. The product backlog is emergent, it's ordered, and it's constantly adapting as new information is learned and understood.
This ongoing nature is absolutely key. It allows for that continuous inspection and adaptation of the product backlog itself. Instead of a large batch process where you try to prepare a huge chunk of work all at once, which often leads to bottlenecks and wasted effort, if priorities shift midway through, it's a continuous flow, like a river, not a dam. This ensures that the highest ordered items are always kept ready, meaning they are clear, understood, and actionable enough for the developers to confidently select and work on them in the upcoming sprint. This proactive, flow-based approach smooths out the sprint planning process dramatically, reduces uncertainty, and enables the team to maintain focus on delivering value without all those constant context switches or clarification meetings interrupting their flow. It truly embodies lean principles by reducing waste and optimizing the flow of value.
Okay, so let's connect this back to the bigger picture. Beyond just the mechanics of description, order, size, how does effective product backlog refinement really drive that deeper change? How does it enable those empirical pillars we talked about?
Right, it's not just about tidying up a list, as you say. It fundamentally changes how the team operates and delivers value. It's really where the rubber meets the road for empiricism in Scrum.
Tell us how. How does getting those backlog items neat and tidy actually make Scrum work better, beyond just making sprint planning smoother? What's the profound impact?
It's absolutely fundamental. Let's take each pillar. First, transparency. Refinement makes the emergent process and the upcoming work visible in a profound way. It ensures everyone involved, developers, POs, Scrum Master, even relevant stakeholders, has a shared, crystal clear understanding of the work. When backlog items are well described, clearly ordered, and thoughtfully sized, there's just less ambiguity, fewer hidden assumptions, a much higher degree of clarity overall.
And what happens when transparency is low in this area?
Well, the Scrum Guide warns us directly. Low transparency leads to decisions that diminish value and increase risk. Refinement tackles this head-on by making the upcoming work explicit and clear to everyone. It prevents those costly misinterpretations that can lead to building the wrong thing or building the right thing the wrong way or discovering fundamental flaws way too late. It illuminates the path ahead, making risks visible early. Second, inspection. By constantly refining throughout the sprint, teams are frequently inspecting not just the product backlog itself, but also their own understanding of it. They're not just passively looking at what's next, they're actively questioning assumptions, identifying potential problems or roadblocks, uncovering those hidden dependencies between items, maybe even validating recent market shifts or user feedback against the backlog.
So it's proactive.
Very proactive. This continuous inspection allows potential problems or variances to be detected long before they blow up into critical impediments during a sprint. It's about proactive risk management, spotting those hidden rocks in the water before the ship hits them. rather than reacting to a crisis mid-sprint when options are limited and stress is high. For example, a quick refinement chat might reveal that a seemingly simple feature actually requires a complex security audit that wasn't initially considered. Discovering that during refinement allows the team to plan for it proactively, maybe adjust the item size or even its order, rather than discovering it halfway through the sprint when it causes major delays.
Okay, that makes sense. And adaptation.
And third, adaptation. This follows naturally from inspection. When new information emerges during refinement, maybe a stakeholder provides crucial clarification, or developers identify a significant technical challenge, or perhaps they discover a much more efficient technical approach. The team can immediately adjust the product backlog. They can update the description, change the size estimate, reorder the item, or even decide to remove it or split it. This embodies embracing change as soon as new learning occurs, which is the absolute essence of agility.
So you're constantly course correcting.
Constantly, based on the freshest information available. For instance, if during refinement the team learns that a critical third-party API they plan to use has changed its terms or is being deprecated, they can immediately adapt the description, sizing, and maybe even the order of related product backlog items. They're not locked into an outdated plan. This ensures the team is always heading in the most valuable direction based on current reality, rather than blindly following a plan that's become obsolete.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, and your team? It sounds like it means you're not just organizing tasks more effectively, you're actively fostering a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
That's it, exactly.
It's not just about getting tasks done, it's about building profound trust within the team, because everyone is involved in understanding the work and achieving a level of clarity that empowers everyone. It's really how you shift from simply doing Scrum, checking boxes, going through the motions, to truly being agile, being nimble, responsive to change, resilient. It feels like the difference between just following rules and actually achieving incredible results.
Indeed. And the benefits of this iterative and incremental approach, which refinement so strongly supports, they extend far beyond just the backlog itself. It helps create that cohesive unit of professionals you need, all focusing on one objective at a time, the sprint goal, ultimately contributing to the product goal. It ensures the team has, or acquires, all the skills necessary within the team to create value each sprint. You become more nimble, more productive, more empowered, responsible, and accountable. These aren't just buzzwords, they're direct, measurable outcomes of a well-refined backlog and the rich, continuous conversations that fuel that refinement. It really is the secret sauce for sustained high performance in complex environments.
Okay, let's revisit that lipstick on a pig idea. Our sources repeatedly warn against this when implementing Scrum, trying to make it look like you're doing Scrum without actually changing anything fundamental about how you work or think. Renaming old meetings to daily Scrums, but still having managers interrogate people.
Classic example.
Or just tracking tickets in Jira or some tool without any real collaborative context building around them. It's that superficial application of agile terms without the real behavioral or cultural shifts needed. You can put all the lipstick you want on it, but
It's still the same old pig underneath. And product backlog refinement is the absolute antithesis of lipstick on a pig. It actively prevents it if done well, because it demands real conversations with the team, with stakeholders. It forces you to create deep context and achieve genuine buy-in and shared understanding. It's not about replacing those vital conversations with mere electronic tickets. It's about using those tools to support and document the rich, ongoing discussions that build that essential shared understanding.
so if you're just listing items in a tool,
If you're just listing items in a tool without the collaborative dialogue to actually refine them, to question them, to size them, to order them based on value, you're not actually implementing Scrum effectively. You're missing the core. True refinement leads to truly valuable working software because everyone understands what's needed and you get a shared understanding of progress towards the product goal. It's a fundamental shift from that old command and control mindset where tasks are simply handed down for execution to one of leadership, where you trust your self-managing team to engage, understand, question, and commit based on clarity.
the source is really clear and blunt on this. Notice an important word in each of the examples above: conversations, context. That's real-world change when implementing Scrum. It's hard work sometimes, changing what you've always done. It definitely requires courage and commitment from everyone. But this is the kind of underlying work, these conversations, this context building, that actually makes Scrum effective.
It is. It challenges those ingrained habits, those assumptions. It forces a relentless focus on clear communication and deep understanding. Rather than just superficial task completion or checking boxes, it's about doing the hard foundational work that yields true agility, not just talking about it or relabeling old processes. And this brings us right back to the human element, doesn't it? Which is often the most complex part of implementing any framework. People being people, darn it, can make anything easy and simple even more complex. That's a quote from the source, and it's so true.
Yes.
That's why Scrum, as a framework, helps get shit done in real life. It provides a robust, empirical structure to manage that inherent human complexity. But it critically relies on people engaging in those sometimes difficult, sometimes uncomfortable, but always necessary, honest conversations. This Scrum Guide is famously silent on many specific technical or engineering practices, but is very clear on the importance of the interactions between people, the accountabilities, the values, because that's where the real complexity and ultimately the real solutions truly lie. It's about empowering that self-managing team to internally decide who does what, when, and how based on shared understanding, rather than being dictated to by external forces who lack the context.
And at the heart of it all, driving this is that concept you mentioned, focus, #deliver. This isn't just a catchy phrase the source uses. It's a guiding principle, almost a mantra for effective Scrum teams. When your backlog is consistently refined, your team gains this unparalleled level of clarity. That clarity allows them to truly focus on the highest priority items, the things that contribute most to the sprint goal and the product goal.
It cuts through the noise.
Exactly. It drastically reduces distractions, minimizes that painful context switching, and helps ensure you're delivering awesome solutions to problems that actually exist. Problems that truly matter to your users and your business. It helps eliminate the excuses for not delivering because the ambiguity has been removed up front. It's about doing less to increase productivity by deliberately saying no to the noise, to the less important things, and saying a clear yes to what truly moves the needle toward the goal.
And by getting those product backlog items crystal clear and ready through refinement, you empower the team to commit to a sprint goal with confidence. They know exactly what they need to focus on and how they plan to deliver it. This consistent delivery of usable, valuable increments, sprint after sprint, that's the ultimate measure of Scrum success.
Right. It's not about being busy. It's about delivering value.
Precisely. The alternative to focus, #deliver, is just being perpetually busy without achieving real outcomes. It's like chasing too many squirrels, as our source might imply. Constantly fragmenting effort across numerous, often ill-defined tasks, rather than concentrating collective efforts on what truly matters to the product goal. Refinement provides that essential clarity and direction. It ensures that every bit of effort contributes meaningfully to a valuable increment. It supports empiricism by making progress measurable and visible through the delivery of done increments, allowing the team to inspect their impact and adapt for even greater focus and delivery in the next sprint. Without effective, ongoing refinement, you're often just spinning your wheels, mistaking frantic motion for actual progress.
Wow. Okay. What an incredible deep dive. We've really unpacked a lot there. It seems we've uncovered that product backlog refinement, this powerful, often misunderstood non-event event, is truly the unsung hero of Scrum. It's the thing that ensures your sprint planning isn't that chaotic surprise party, but a focused, productive, and truly collaborative session where real planning happens.
It's the prep work that makes the performance possible.
Exactly. It's where context is built, where understanding is forged through those deep conversations, and where the path to delivering continuous, real value becomes crystal clear. It really does feel like the silent engine behind a high-performing Scrum team. And by consistently investing in refinement, by doing that challenging but ultimately rewarding work of continuous conversation and clarification, you are actively embracing Scrum's core empirical pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. You're moving far beyond just lipstick on a pig and truly doing the foundational work to foster real conversations, build profound trust, and ultimately achieve that state of focus. #deliver. Delivering measurable, valuable increments. It's about making your Scrum implementation truly effective, truly impactful, not just superficially compliant on paper.
And this whole exploration, it really raises an important question, I think, for all teams using Scrum, a point to ponder. If the Scrum Guide is, as we've said, purposely incomplete, defining only the essential framework, and if product backlog refinement is clearly so vital for success, yet it's not mandated as a formal, time-boxed event, then what other non-events or continuous, perhaps informal activities might your team be neglecting? What other vital collaborative discussions, continuous learning cycles, or proactive problem-solving efforts are potentially being missed simply because they aren't explicitly time-boxed or mandated in the guide? What hidden opportunities for improvement lie in that space between the formal Scrum events, just waiting for your team to truly embrace doing the work and unlock their full potential? Where else is that crucial context being missed?
That is a powerful thought to mull over, a great challenge for our listeners. We really encourage you to reflect on your own team's practices in light of this. Where can you amplify those crucial conversations? How can you foster deeper context earlier and more often? How can you truly embody the spirit of continuous refinement, not just for the backlog, but maybe for your processes too? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. If this conversation sparked new ideas or maybe raised some uncomfortable questions, keep digging, keep learning, and most importantly, keep practicing. Experiment and see what works for your team. Until next time, keep focusing and keep delivering.